And this game underway. Remember, you definitely win or go home now.
This is the equivalent of the Sweet 16 for Mike Krzyzewski. If you're a college fan, think of it as a 2 versus 15 seed. Australia comes in the underdog.
The United States has never lost to Australia in international play. Bogut falls down but controls the rebound. And at the other end, Australia missing the layup as the U.S. brings it back.
Australia has struggled, Jim, to score in the half court so far.
Paul left open. And on the rebound, a foul called on Bogut as the first foul of the game goes against Andrew Bogut.
Australia coached by a familiar name to those on the West Coast, Brian Goorjian, the son of longtime legendary coach Ed Goorjian.
Here's LeBron James. Sends it out to Battier, who hits from deep as the U.S. takes the lead.
Good solid move. LeBron iso'd, but as he drew defenders, the kick out to that left corner where Battier has made a living in this tournament.
1 minute having been played. Nice move on the back cut. But the U.S. recovers. And the ball out of bounds to Australia.
This is an Australia team that was third in the World Championships this week in three-point shooting. They have quite a bit of size that's been left home due to injuries and other reasons.
And they have missed that, Fran, in that they were 19th in rebounding in the preliminary round. That's a three-point hit to tie the game.
C.J. Bruton, a young man born in the United States, played junior college ball at Indian Hills in Iowa.
Born in Wichita. Again, a three-try. And a three-for-all is broken out early as Carmelo Anthony connects.
LeBron James has really been an all-around player for this team.
Here comes Paul.
Man-to-man defense to start.
Chris Paul, who was so outstanding in that preliminary round in the assist-to-turnover department. And the U.S. behind the hoop by Elton Brand has opened up a 5-point lead.
Elton Brand, the example of what Jerry Colangelo and Mike Krzyzewski have done in terms of mobile big men that fit the international style.
Carmelo Anthony called for the foul, the first foul against the United States.
With Bogut with one foul, Jim, I would make an attempt to go at him early and try to get that second one quickly.
Number 11 is Worthington. Well, Bogut operating here. Shooting over Brand.
I mentioned Bogut, more of a passer right now in that post. Former National Player of the Year in 2005 for Utah.
Anthony left, LeBron James left open at the foul line. And Bogut gets the two right there.
That's just a breakdown in transition. Brand not getting back quick enough.
Straight away, look at a three, and the U.S. goes up 11-5. Battier has his second three-pointer.
How about Shane Battier? 6 for 10 from behind the arc going into this game, and he knocks down two quick ones.
The U.S. a much better three-point shooting team than the 2004 Olympic team. Bogut at the rim, fouled by Battier.
Well, that's the gambling that you don't need right there in the post. Elton Brand, that's feast or famine. Once he misses the steal, Bogut's got that near clear path to the rim, and Battier's got to pick up the foul.
So Bogut, 10 of 19 from the line in the preliminary round, shooting two.
Surprisingly, for a guy who's shown a pretty good shooting touch from the perimeter. Of course, as we mentioned before the game, 5 games is really not enough games to judge what a guy can do.
Not enough of a sample, really, to get a good idea. But from now on, it will be, because in this one-or-done situation, the winner of this game playing Germany in the quarterfinals. Remember, the United States is in the opposite bracket from Argentina and Spain. The U.S. would have to play Greece, perhaps. This is Paul on the miss as Australia pushes it back. Greece had a good preliminary round. Another three-point hit. Newly connecting.
Another one of those young players. In 2003, Australia easily won the Junior Men's World Championship with a nucleus that's out here today. 6 young players on this court for Brian Goorjian's club.
Time's wasting 5 on the shot clock. And that's LeBron James.
Well, you'll love his ability to shoot the ball, but that was a stagnant possession right there, bailed out by the shot made by James.
The United States with 4 three-point field goals already in a little over 4 minutes played.
There's another gamble that comes up empty, Jim.
Nice move by Bogut.
Well, this is what we talked about. When they get to Spain and Argentina, if they advance, that will be suicide, the unnecessary gambling in the half court.
The good thing for the U.S. is because they're in the opposite bracket, they'll only have to meet one. One or the other, but not both.
Another tough shot contested by Bogut, by Brand.
And now Australia with a chance to tie or get the lead with a long one.
One of the key questions for Team USA is what will they do in the half court on both ends when transition is taken away?
This is Bruton inside. This is Bogut from the outside, and Australia has the lead.
Well, we talked about the poor free throw shooting, but Andrew Bogut has always had that ability to play away from the basket and knock down that shot.
9 points for Bogut of the 15 scored by Australia.
This group has not been Team USA's best defensive group throughout this tournament.
Anthony missing, but a whistle on the play, and that leads us to a timeout. Australia by 1 early. Wade in the lineup for the U.S.
Well, this has been a very similar formula for Australia.
Heinrich has also checked in, along with Dwight Howard. Battier and Anthony remain as Carmelo Anthony misses the first free throw. Anthony 11 for 17 from the line in this tournament.
Similar formula, Jim. Australia starting off just like Italy. They've kept Team USA out of transition, and they have made Team USA pay for defensive breakdowns in the half court. That's something that's going to concern Mike Krzyzewski.
The U.S. led 11-4, and now a tie ball game with 4:37 left in the quarter. This is Bruton being guarded by Heinrich. Bruton on a 3. And Kirk Heinrich, the long rebound. Kirk Heinrich, who was second in rebounding on this team in the preliminaries, puts the U.S. in front.
When you ask yourself why, when you play the teams that you do in international basketball that shoot a lot of threes, long rebounds lead to rebounds by guards. Heinrich has taken advantage.
Australia behind Bogut did a good job in its comeback here in this quarter as Bogut passes on his shot, but they line up another 3. Newly on the miss.
Too many open looks for Team USA, too much gambling.
And not that time. That 3 goes down. The second three-point field goal for Newly.
Brad Newly, a young man that was at the Orlando pre-draft camp in June, trying to impress NBA scouts. Not enough interest. He's gone back to Australia.
This is Wade out the basket and a foul. If that foul is on Bogut, that's his second.
And that's a big foul, Jim. We talked about going at Andrew Bogut. No one has been able to keep Dwayne Wade out of the lane in this tournament. Again, he's averaging a point a minute.
And remember, he's coming off the bench to do it.
He took himself out of the lineup versus Senegal. Told Coach K he could use the day to rest, and that certainly gave other players on this USA team more opportunities.
So Wade coming up empty at the foul line. The United States with a 1-point advantage. Bogut stays in with the 2 fouls. Now the U.S. out on the move on the steal. And it's goaltending. Wade gets the field goal.
International basketball, goaltending is the same as it is in the NBA and in college. But once it hits the rim, you can knock it off. You watch right here as Wade comes into your picture. The ball is blocked before it hits that rim. And that's 2 points.
As the United States goes back up by 3. A little over 3 minutes for the quarter. And a foul called on the way in, so Australia will be on the free throw line. That's Sam McKinnon, number 6.
Well, this is a young
Antoine Jameson called for the foul.
This young man, Jim McKinnon, has come off a serious knee injury. At one time, he was an NBA prospect, and he's a small forward playing power forward for this team, which creates that real difficult matchup for Team USA in terms of 4 perimeter three-point shooters.
You know, the interesting thing about that is most players, after they've had a major knee surgery, they'll have some kind of brace going. And he's out there without any brace. Now the U.S. with a 2-point advantage. Wade on a deep 2, shooting for the angle.
Another tough shot that doesn't come out of any kind of offense.
C.J. Bruton, number 9, Wade defending. Australia with 6 on the shot clock, and it's Howard with the rebound for the U.S. And the United States turns it over.
A very sloppy play early for Team USA, looking for a knockout punch, but you're not going to knock too many people out early once you get to the elimination round.
Australia in deep. The U.S. has the turnover, and there's the foul on Bruton to stop the thrust up the court.
That time, Andrew Bogut looked like he overpassed, had an opportunity to get to the rim. You see that smart foul by Bruton that we see so much in international play.
Now LeBron James back in.
Aaron Bruce is in the game for Australia, a young man from Baylor University.
Jamison missing. And Australia back in transition. Good defensive play by Howard. The ball out of bounds to the U.S.
Team USA very simple in terms of its half-court offense. Pick and roll, dribble penetration.
What's the call? Count the basket and a foul. Dwight Howard.
Now, we've seen that continuation is part of FIBA basketball.
But I thought maybe they'd have a walk in there. That's also a part of FIBA basketball.
And phantom calls as well. That you scratch your head.
Chris Bosh has come on for the U.S.
I think I mentioned when I was coaching in scrimmages and practice, I used to make bad calls on purpose.
Right.
Just to see how players would react. And I realized I'd probably be a pretty good FIBA official.
Yeah, but you were doing it on purpose.
Yeah. Oh, this is another breakdown. Another breakdown. They've got 21 points, Jim, and about 15 of them have come from defensive breakdowns.
And Newley has 8 as Wade slips through. Dwayne Wade brings an ooh and ah from the crowd, and the U.S. is up by 4.
Well, we've seen that USA obviously is best in transition. And that time the opportunity for Wade.
Off the move in the lane by Newley, a reach-in foul on the United States. It's on Howard.
I mentioned earlier, Spain and Argentina are so well schooled because they've played together for so long that you cannot have these kind of breakdowns as you move on through this tournament. So that would be a concern for me if I were Coach K.
Australia has been solid in this opening quarter. Wade had a hand on it. Australia now off the move to the hoop. And the foul will get the Boomers on the line. The foul on Bosh.
Another example throughout this tournament, dribble penetration. When Team USA is spread out, teams have been able to get to the rim off the dribble.
That foul was on Dwight Howard, and that's 2 fouls on Howard. Halliwell at the line. Wade Halliwell.
You know, Jim, I point some of these things out because it's my contention that 3 weeks is not enough to develop sound habits when you put a team like this together, no matter how good the talent is.
Elton Brand back in for the U.S. The U.S. lead down to 2. They were up 7 early. Australia came back to take a 15-14 lead. And the United States been up ever since. There's Brand right at the rim. Good find.
And Wade back the defender down. He contracted the defense and opened Brand up behind that defense who was helping on flash.
Less than 40 seconds. And Wade makes the steal but could never quite find the handle.
Well, obviously, it's a luxury to bring the NBA Finals MVP off the bench. And you see the disruptive nature he's had in this opening quarter for Team USA.
So Australia, with about 6 difference between the shot clock and the game clock, turns it over. And now the U.S. can take it all the way down. It's in the hands of Wade.
I got a feeling he's going to go to the rim. How about you?
Not so sure. Flares off toward the corner instead and overshoots the rim as the first quarter has come to an end. The United States with a real tussle.
Including some highlight-style put-back dunks.
Sam Vincent did a good job with that Nigerian team.
Yeah, they were tough.
This is Bogut on the perimeter. All the way through on the base, but he's snuffed. And Anthony comes away with it for the U.S.
They set that ISO up off the TO, and Elton Brand did a nice job of keeping Bogut in front.
Carmelo Anthony will shoot 2.
Carmelo Anthony has elevated his game in this tournament to the point where he has become Team USA's go-to guy. A brilliant 35-point performance against Italy, 29 in the second half.
And that, of course, was a U.S. record for the most points scored in FIBA play, and he has 5 points working tonight. There you see his scoring average, and his field goal percentage, truly remarkable at 59%.
I'd be very surprised if the big 3 are not on the court at least 28 minutes plus tonight.
Look at Bosch defending out on the perimeter.
This is a good game for Chris Bosch because of the mobility of Aussie's big guys.
Offensive foul called on Australia. Foul is on Worthington.
Mark Worthington is the former Division II Player of the Year in the NCAA. Played at Metro State in Denver for a tremendous coach, Mike Dunlap, who coached in Australia, now will join George Karl's Denver Nuggets staff.
Paul James. Brand is trapped, but Bosch on a dive cut to the rim. There was a foul called, I think, before the shot. U.S., of course, wants continuation.
Really good to see Chris Bosch in this game early. He had a couple DNPs, but the 20-point, 10-rebound performance against Senegal. And Jim, he was quite, I think, miffed that he hadn't played to that point based on his comments, but kept his head up and played extremely well in the last game.
Now we're a minute deep into the second quarter. A rare turnover for Chris Paul. Paul, who turned it over only 6 times in the 5 games in the preliminary round, now here in the elimination game, has turned it over here. And a foul on Brand.
Well, you see the way Australia uses Andrew Bogut at the elbow. He's such a good passer. They run their offense through him, looking for back cuts. Very well done. Excellent passer play for Ray Giacoletti at Utah.
Bruton under duress, and James claims the rebound.
USA not got the transition game going yet.
That's a nice move by Bosch.
Once again, LeBron James in this first half, excellent dishes. He's been content to allow Wade and Anthony to do the bulk of the scoring.
The United States with its biggest lead to date. Wraparound pass by Bogut. And a rebound by Bosch, and the U.S. on the move. LeBron James. Here's Brand. And LeBron called for the foul going over the back on the rebound.
Oh, that's a tough contested shot by Elton Brand there. Team USA's got to push the pace in terms of the missed shots, get Chris Paul and LeBron out in the middle of the court. But then they've got to be very sound and solid in the half court.
31-23, their biggest lead so far. They were up 7 very early. And then it was as if they kind of got bogged down in the mud a little bit.
Well, they've got to be solid here in the half court without gambling.
Foul called on Bosch as McKinnon went strong to the rim, and Chris Bosch has his second foul.
On dribble penetration, you never help up. When you help up on the drive, you expose the baseline, and that allowed the Aussies to get the ball to the rim. Another breakdown off of the dribble.
That's the first foul on Bosch. Dwayne Wade back on for the U.S., and with 7:38 left in the half, it's McKinnon on the free throw line. McKinnon has 2 for 3 from the line in this game.
One of the veterans of this team, but it's a very young Aussie team. 6 players under 23 years of age.
Chris Bosch is very active, very alive. Wade underneath. Pretty move by D. Wade.
Well, there you go, Jim. Solid defense leads to transition offense, and then the ability to take over with athletic ability.
The U.S. the steal, and Wade has it. Heinrich. Here's Joe Johnson. Wade to the loose ball, knocked out of bounds by Australia.
Well, Joe Johnson, a career 37% three-point shooter, has not been able to get it going in this tournament.
Joe Johnson hasn't shot the ball well from any place, actually. He's about 36% for a field goal percentage in the tournament. But he's open here, and that's his spot.
That left corner off, great dribble penetration by Dwayne Wade.
As the U.S. now putting some distance between themselves and Australia, the United States up by a dozen.
No need to gamble, just play good half-court defense and contest shots.
Bogut on the miss, but they'll fire again with the offensive rebound.
Well, we talked about this throughout the tournament. Teams that shoot the ball from deep, the ball's going to come out long. So all 5 defenders have got to be involved in a rebound.
Bogut at the rim and knocked out of bounds by Heinrich. 6:18 for the half. USA up by 12 over Australia in the elimination round. Defense and what we've seen too, defending on the perimeter, Chris Bosch has been terrific.
Yes, he has, and he again, like Elton Brand, really suited for this international game with his mobility as a big guy.
Australia coming in, Wade contesting the inbounds pass. And Bogut got bumped, so he offered the shot, and Bosch gets the rebound.
Looks like zone here, 2-3 zone. Team USA hasn't seen much zone in this tournament so far.
But every time they have, they've recognized it, and that's 2 hits in a row for Joe Johnson.
No, they come in shooting a pretty good percentage from behind the arc, almost 39% in this tournament.
Joe Johnson has scored the last 5 as the United States moves out to a 14-point lead.
See right here, just stay solid, don't gamble, make Aussies take tough shots. Oh, that's a 3-step travel.
And it's Bosch who comes out with a rebound. Here's Wade in on Bruton.
Well, good defense, good solid half-court defense. You get the rebound, and that will open up the transition game.
Bruton called for the foul. 14 foul, 2 fouls on Bruton.
Anytime you get this guy in the open court, it's murder.
Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, they probably dislocate more ankles and knees than anybody who bounces a ball.
It's a big second foul for Bruton, who was with the Cleveland Cavaliers this summer. He's a veteran of international play.
That was a non-shooting foul? That isn't.
Nope.
Elton Brand gets the field goal and draws the foul.
Now, if this is Bruton, that's 3, and this would be really difficult for Brian Goorjian. You see, he commits the foul, picks up his 3rd. He's the most athletic guard that Australia has. Brian Goorjian is going to have to sit him down.
That's the 15th foul as well. Dwight Howard in the preliminary round averaged better than 6.5 points a game. He averaged a similar amount in rebounds. He had 27 total rebounds in the 5 games, so a little better than 5. The minutes aren't there for any U.S. player to lead in any statistical category. But as a team, they lead the tournament in points scored, 108.6. Perimeter shots aren't dropping for Australia, and they definitely have a problem trying to compete with the U.S. as a result. As Howard tried to make the move, a foul on Australia.
Well, you see the quickness of Team USA's big guys, Howard and Brand and Bosch, playing off the trapezoid lane and being able to get a running start to the rim. Bogut puts that shoulder down but doesn't establish defensive position. Remember, Jim, Jerry Colangelo and Mike Krzyzewski built this team around what they thought could be successful in international basketball.
Dwight Howard missing the free throw. As you saw, that foul on Bogut, his 3rd. You know, when you're playing the U.S. and you're kind of hanging with them, and then the next thing you know, you look up, you're down 15.
That's
you're
exactly
down 17.
Right. Yep.
You know,
no, they have a lot of firepower, and you come off the bench with firepower. Mentioned when you got Dwayne Wade accepting that 6-man role, and you can bring people like Joe Johnson off the bench.
So far, the United States has limited Australia to just 1 point in this second quarter. Bogut a recovery, but they're just looking for a turnover there, and the U.S. has it. Kirk Heinrich. 4.5 left in the half. Nice feed into Anthony. Carmelo couldn't finish. Nice block by Howard.
We've seen Dwight Howard make his presence felt on both offensive ends and defensive end. Excellent shot blocker here. Comes from that weak side off the drive. Offensively, he's great because you don't run any plays for him. He just goes after the boards.
LOL back in for Australia. They're still looking for that first field goal of the second quarter. And Heinrich has the rebound.
You see what happens, Jim. You eliminate the gambling. You just play 22 feet and in, get a hand up on every shot, rebound it, and you're going to be fine with this group.
On the move is Wade, and the ball out of bounds. Last touch by Wade. So Australia has it. The U.S. in this quarter has scored 15 of the 16 points scored. I'm wondering if in international competition there's ever been a quarter in which a team did not have a field goal.
Well, I'm sure there have been, because you got to remember there's been such disparity at times.
I've done an NBA game where that happened. Here's Anthony. And there's some contact, no foul. Contact there is called, and Carmelo Anthony shoots two.
Boy, if that's on C.J. Bruton. Nope.
Anyway, Anthony will be shooting two.
At the line for USA, number 15, Anthony, 2 shots.
That was on Barlow. David Barlow, number 5. First foul on him. Anthony was 7.
One of the things that's concerned me throughout the preliminary round was the breakdowns defensively, because this team has been somewhat built on pressure defense, getting out into the passing lanes. You can't really do that as you go deeper in the tournament with good ball handling and passing teams. But you can play solid, stay between your man and the basket defense. And with this athleticism, it's going to pay off.
And we're seeing that in this second quarter. In a half-court setting, that's where they're getting most of their steals.
Very much so.
Bruton against Heinrich. Oh, man. Stifling defense by the United States. Out of bounds to the U.S.
Sometimes, Jim, when you have superior athletes, rather than extend the floor, you're better off playing 20 feet and in and just locking down the paint. Extending the floor and gambling leads some teams not as talented to get easier open court opportunities.
Opens up driving lanes. Here goes Anthony. And a foul called on Australia, so Carmelo Anthony back to the free throw line.
Carmelo Anthony is a multi-dimensional scorer. He can score maybe as well as anybody in the league, maybe besides Kobe, in terms of the variety of ways he does it. Inside, out, deep shooting, mid-range, put it on the floor. He has been impossible to guard in Japan.
And Anthony's got a good free throw string working. He missed his first one. He's made 6 in a row. And that's 9 points tonight for Carmelo Anthony. That foul was on Daniel Kickert of Australia, his first.
Kickert with a tremendous career at St. Mary's and Moraga. All West Coast Conference player for Randy Bennett. Just graduated, and again, part of that youthful infusion to this national team.
And if you're just joining us late, the U.S. was down 1 at 15-14. They're up 22. Bruton with the first field goal of the second quarter for Australia.
Now, Bruton is the one athlete in the backcourt that can get his shot.
He's got 5 points in the game. And the ball out of bounds to the U.S.
He actually signed in junior college with Iowa State. He did, except he had been a pro in Australia. And so that ended that, and he's ended up having a very good career here.
2:41 left of the half. It's LeBron. Finding Wade at the rim.
Well, in 20 minutes a game, LeBron gives you 14 points, about 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He's put his scoring on the back burner and has been a very solid, complete player for Team USA.
And Dwayne Wade and Carmelo Anthony have 10 apiece already tonight. Bosch the rebound. The winner gets Germany in the quarterfinals on Wednesday.
Nice pass.
Wade to Bosch, and the foul will get Bosch on the line.
Well, Chris Bosch did a tremendous job of setting the screen to create the indecision on the part of Australia, and then floated to the basket, and Wayne hit him on a dime.
And Newley is called for the foul. That's his second. And Chris Bosch on the free throw line. Now, not a lot of points tonight, but I tell you, Fran, just his demeanor on the floor, his explosiveness at both ends.
Well, you pointed it out early, Jim, his defensive ability on Bogut away from the basket. And it's good to see, too, because you can tell reading some of the clips, he was down about not getting a chance to contribute. Coach K went with him early tonight.
Yeah, it's only a 40-minute game, so, I mean, somebody's not going to get minutes out of 12 players. It's very difficult.
Yeah, even an NBA All-Star like Bosch.
Right.
There's a pass.
Well, it's because there are a lot of NBA All-Stars out there with him. So the U.S. having limited to Australia to just 3 points in this second quarter with a minute and a half left. The three goes down for Anthony.
Well, this looks like, you talk about the lack of a structured offense, but this is the way Duke plays. Coach K gives these guys a lot of freedom to do their thing, and Carmelo Anthony has not abused that freedom.
Carmelo has 13. Score the basket and a foul. Free throw coming when we come back. A timeout taken. The United States up big on Australia. He made the basket, drew the foul, and completes the three-point play.
Another one of those young players that's played in the United States, also at Metro State in Denver.
LeBron James running the show from the top.
Matchup zone.
Bosch in deep, leaves it for Heinrich. That's Joe Johnson. Man, he's cooking tonight. Joe Johnson with his second three and 8 points scored.
Well, he may be cooking, but LeBron James is serving it up because another great look by LeBron getting into the lane and drawing defense.
So about 30 seconds left in the half. And Australia coughs it up again.
They're coughing it up, and Team USA doesn't have to gamble.
Joe Johnson fouled on the way to the rim. Good to see him come out of a shooting slump. Joe Johnson with 2 3-point field goals and a 2.
A very versatile player. Coach K has called him a no-maintenance guy. This guy shot 48% 2 years ago from behind the arc for the Phoenix Suns. Now with the Atlanta Hawks.
And we've been talking about how LeBron James serves it up for his teammates. How about the guy Joe Johnson was playing with in Phoenix? Steve Nash during that year. He can find you, right?
He sure can.
He can find you open when you don't even know you're open.
Right. Ask Boris Diaw.
Johnson a steal. And the U.S. is up by 30.
Well, I mentioned at the top, Jim, this was like the 2 seed versus the 15 seed, and that's what it's turned into this first half.
The three rims out as the United States holds Australia to 6. Second quarter.
Ball handling and selfishness.
And remember, Australia went about 8.5 minutes without a field goal in the second quarter. Joe Johnson and Chris Bosch getting a start here for the United States in this second half. A 32-6 score in the second quarter for the U.S.
This second half now is less about the scoreboard and more about the process of growing as a team, particularly on the defensive end.
Carmelo Anthony whistled for the foul. And Andrew Bogut, who scored 9 points of the first 15 by Australia, but hasn't scored since, gets to the free throw line.
Only averaging 11 coming in. Bogut, a 21-year-old. The number 1 pick in the NBA draft in 2005, and a very good passing big man. Not yet a go-to scorer, either here or with the Milwaukee Bucks.
So Bogut opens the scoring in the second half with his 2 free throws.
This gives Coach K a chance to play his entire team now.
There you see the top 3 scorers for the U.S. in the first half. And LeBron James with a pretty move. James with 5 points scored in this game.
Chris Paul with another assist, leading this tournament in assists.
And LeBron James with a steal. Chris Paul, by the way, leading the United States in steals in the preliminary round. Besides that 17-3 assist-to-turnover ratio, which figured out to 34 assists and 6 turnovers.
NBA Rookie of the Year almost unanimously this season. Young man out of Wake Forest. I'll tell you a great story about him. Jeff Bauer, who's the general manager now, Jim, of the New Orleans
Oklahoma
team.
City.
Oklahoma City. He spent an entire week at Wake Forest when Chris Paul was a senior, just watching him because they knew they had a high pick, and that turned out to be a pretty good choice.
That turned out to be a pretty good shot there for Carmelo Anthony. Another three, his third of the game. And it's Chris Paul at the rim, taken out by Bogut, and the U.S. whistled for a foul.
Any sixth grade coach knows, Chris, you use your left hand on that side.
Paul called for the personal foul. That's his first.
Well, steals will come if you just play sound defense. Pressure will force teams to turn it over, but when you gamble, that's when I think you really get in trouble versus really good passing ball handling teams.
I was talking in the first half how Australia statistically has forced more turnovers than the U.S. team in the preliminary round. But on the other hand, they've turned it over 20 times a game, so they've turned it over 2 more times a game than they've gotten it.
A large part of that is because of the youth of this team. I mentioned 6 players on this team under 23 years of age. And for those who follow international basketball, some people remember Chris Anstey, who played in the NBA. David Anderson, an Atlanta Hawks draft pick, is one of the best big men in Europe. Plays at CSKA Moscow, but he missed the end of the season and the summer with a serious injury.
Luke Longley, of course, perhaps the most well-known of the Australian players who have played in the NBA, played on a lot of those championship teams with the Bulls. And that's the thing about Australia. I mean, they're known for developing the big guys.
They are. They've had some really, really good big guys. You look at Luke Sensor, who played at Georgia Tech. Nebraska's Alex Marich right now, who was on this team until a shoulder injury forced him to miss this World Championships.
It's Joe Johnson getting to the rim. He's been terrific. Joe Johnson with 14 points tonight.
What a great job he did of getting by Bogut to the other side of the rim and using the rim as a shield from the shot blocker.
Elton Brand defending, but nicely done as Australia is now halfway there. They're down by 33. The U.S. having doubled the lead. Chris Bosh.
Well, Chris Bosh probably dominates Bogut during the NBA season with his experience. And that time he smelled an opportunity to take the ball right at him.
Deep ball goes down. That's Worthington.
And remember, this team is third in the World Championships in three-point shooting.
At 4-14, and they have defended it fairly well, except for tonight. Joe Johnson with a steal, Chris Paul with a delivery, and Elton Brand with a finish.
And Chris Paul, one more time, very unselfish. When they put this team together, you think back to 2004, Iverson and Marbury, not really pass-first point guards. Chris Paul fits this group much, much better.
Well, we're seeing the United States dominate another team in this elimination round. And we've already touched on the fact, Fran, that in all likelihood, I mean, the strength is in the other bracket.
Yes.
So now listen, in this bracket where the U.S. is playing, is it Greece? I mean, who is it?
Well,
it's going to give them.
Obviously, it's Dirk and Germany first, but Dirk is really the only high-level player that matches up with these guys. When you get to Greece in the semifinals, you're talking about a team with no NBA players, but a team that's been together the better part of a decade. So that's going to be a tricky game because Team USA is going to know almost nobody on that team.
Which was almost the case with Italy.
That's right, and it was in 2004 when you did those games in Cologne.
Joe Johnson again for three.
Greece is the European champions.
As McKinnon.
I mentioned McKinnon was thought to be an NBA prospect until a serious knee injury, so he's a veteran of this Aussie team.
Oh, Brad Miller didn't convert there. Elton Brand on the follow. Bogut, the Australian rebound.
Remember, Team USA has not had that much practice time, so they've got to look at these opportunities to keep improving regardless of the score.
Finally, a foul called as Chris Paul appeared to have been fouled more than once. Jason Smith called for the personal foul.
What Team USA has proven tonight is without gambling. If you put solid pressure on a team like Australia, they'll turn the ball over anyway.
We'll be back after these messages.
In NCAA play,
which they're facing now with Fran Fraschilla. I'm Jim Durham. We're glad to have you with us on an early Sunday morning. United States at the Super Arena in Saitama, Japan. Joe Johnson has come off the bench and lit it up, scoring 14 points.
There's an opportunity, as we mentioned, to work on some half-court offense. You see the 2-3 zone.
And a personal foul call in Australia.
It's interesting, Jim, because of the way Team USA has shot the basketball in this tournament, they've seen very little zone.
Yeah. Newley has picked up his third foul halfway through the third quarter. Elton Brand sends it out. Heinrich leaves it for Brand.
Great ball movement. You talk about this team and the unselfishness. It started from day one in Las Vegas. Mike Krzyzewski said, we're about team first. And you see the way this team plays together.
By the way, Chris Paul closing in on a U.S. assist record for the FIBA World Championship as Andrew Bogut scores, and he has a 13-point game working.
The former National Player of the Year at the University of Utah.
Nice feed underneath.
Well, unfortunately for Brad Miller, every time he gets an opportunity, he plays pretty well, but he has not yet fit into the plans. Again, as you mentioned, Jim, 40-minute game, it's hard to get everybody a chance to really get going.
The record for the United States in terms of assists for a tournament is 37. Worthington with the field goal there for Australia. Chris Paul has 2 tonight, so he's got 36 in the tournament. He's going to go way past that before the U.S. is finished. Dwayne Wade on a special delivery.
Well, he went way past Andrew Bogut that time.
Andre Miller in 02 had 37 assists for the United States. Doc Rivers also at one time had 37 assists in this tournament. Bogut snuffed at the rim, but a foul called. 2 shots coming.
Well, Andrew Bogut has come into this tournament only averaging 11 points a game. We talked about the scoring prowess of guys like Gasol, Nowitzki, Milicic, and Yao in this tournament, but Andrew Bogut very forceful tonight, playing against the guys he sees all winter long. Has played very, very well.
Elton Brand, I believe, picking up that foul. That's his second. As Bogut gets ready at the foul line where he hasn't missed in this game. 5 for 5, but prior to that, 10 for 19 in the preliminary round.
This guy came on the scene in 2003 in Saloniki in Greece. Australia won the World Junior Men's Championship, blowing away Team USA. You see a look at Aaron Bruce, one of the outstanding guards in the Big 12, also on that team. We've seen a lot of good young players in this tournament. Teams with good young players for the future.
Miller for 3.
Brad Miller shot 6 for 7 from 3 in the exhibition tour, and he's on this team because of that European-style game.
The United States averaging 108.6. And they're well on their way to that tonight. Don't forget, WNBA Conference Finals in the playoffs later on at 8 o'clock Eastern. Detroit Shock and the Connecticut Sun in a deciding game.
Yep, Katie Douglas pulled a Willis Reed today. She played and gave that Sun team an emotional lift.
Wade gets through. Brand never saw the pass, and here comes Australia the other way. Newley scoring.
Well, again, a young man, only 21 years old. Look for him to be in next year's NBA draft. Not a great athlete, but a skilled wing player who can shoot the ball.
Elton Brand operating in the post. And as he dropped down, there's a foul called on Australia. Worthington whistled for the foul. 2 fouls on him.
You see the way Elton Brand, with that trapezoid lane, is able to use that dribble to draw defenders, and then the kickouts have been pretty effective tonight as well.
Off the inbounds pass, Shane Battier nails the 3.
Well, he's back to shooting almost that college 3 at Duke. That's a pretty easy spot for him.
And he's nailed 3 of them tonight. And you touched on it earlier. He came in 6 of 10 in the preliminary round. He's added 3 more to his total. And a little over 2 minutes left in this third quarter.
Jim, we know that Bruce Bowen was pretty bitterly disappointed about not making this team. And some thought that Battier was the guy chosen over him. But when you look at Bowen's age, despite the rings, you got a younger version of Bowen with the outside shooting, the defensive ability.
Because not only are you trying to win the gold this year, but you're looking ahead to the Olympics in 2008 in China.
That's right.
And the age, I think, you're right. It played a factor in that move.
And there's no question Bruce Bowen is a winner and did everything he could to help Team USA throughout that tour. Little 3/4 court press. This is more of a nuisance press than anything else.
So it's Wade out front. Miller sends it on. Battier sticks another one.
See, now when you look at this team and you look at Germany and Greece, you have to ask yourself, if you're their coaches, do we zone these guys? And the answer right now is that may be picking your poison, whether to play a man or zone, the way Team USA shoots the ball.
And of course, the zone defenses is what really hurt the team in the 2004 Olympics. Battier finally misses one. That team did not shoot the ball well from any place. I mean, not just the threes.
Yeah.
Didn't have a real good field goal percentage. Not like this one at 5:29 coming in, and they're certainly going to raise that with this shooting performance tonight. So with a minute left in the third, the U.S. up by 37. Here's D. Wade. He steps back and fires. Even Dwayne Wade is knocking him down from long distance.
He has not made a 3 in this tournament, and that wasn't either, but pretty close.
I tell you what, this guy so improved his outside shooting. You know, most guys will improve it from year to year. He did it within the season last year. By the end of the year and on into the playoffs, he was a very effective three-point shooter.
No, and that's because he's so impossible to guard going to the rim. Tells you that's the kind of player that you want to coach.
Off the block shot, the ball still up for grabs. And Australia fouled at the rim, so they'll be on the free throw line. That's Luke Kendall, number 7, who drew the personal foul.
I remember being in Chicago 3 years ago at the pre-draft camp, and Pat Riley sat with Tom Crean for 3 hours discussing the pros and cons of Dwayne Wade. And I really believe, Jim, that they would have taken Chris Bosh had he been available. I think Pat Riley was sold on Bosh, and how fortunate for him that Toronto took Bosh, who's already going to be an outstanding player in his own right.
How fortunate for Chicago that Sam Bowie was taken ahead of Michael Jordan.
What did you tell me? What did Michael say? What did Michael tell Dr. Jack?
He tells it to everybody. Anybody who passed him. Don't you wish you'd have taken me now? You have to put things in proper context.
If every NBA team knew what they were doing, they'd all end up 41 and 41.
Well, the league ends up 500.
Yeah.
You add up the wins and the losses, it's 500. Sure. 7.8 left in the third, and the United States, again, about to name its own final. It'll take them a little over 10 minutes to do it. It will take them exactly 10 minutes to do it. Timeout, take it.
17 threes and went 1 for 18 and still won by 15.
How about that block by Dwight Howard? He blocked it twice.
Knowing the FIBA score system here, he may not get credit for any. I wouldn't want these guys doing my taxes.
The move into the lane by LeBron James, whistle. Yao Ming having a terrific tournament for China, leading all scorers. Dirk Nowitzki at 23 tonight. Carlos Arroyo. Now, they don't show Dwayne Wade, who really should have been in there at 21.3, because in the FIBA statistics, they had Wade playing 5 games in the preliminary round, and he only played 4. So they divided his point total by 5 instead of by 4, but it's not the first time we've had issues. Statistical malfeasance, shall we say.
And the IRS will come after these guys if they keep it up.
17 left.
Hey, you talk about Carlos Arroyo. How about Darko Milicic? 16 points and 9 rebounds in this tournament?
Yep.
And Dwight Howard. If you're Otis Smith and Brian Hill and the Orlando Magic people, you got to be pretty pleased with this output in this tournament for their players.
Tried to go into Dwight Howard, and the U.S. a little ragged with it early in the 4th. And Australia still playing hard.
Well, Aaron Bruce is going to be one of the better guards in America this year, playing for Scotty Drew down at Baylor. He's an outstanding all-around guard.
A quick shot by Anthony. Bosch got bumped underneath, no call, and Australia coming back with 8:38 left, down by 33. Score the basket.
See, Jim, this is what I talked about earlier. This is where process is more important than the score. There's no reason you should give up a run like this, particularly allowing Aaron Bruce twice to go coast to coast. It may not matter right now, but it will matter on the weekend.
Anthony underneath. Yep, and a foul.
Boy, another great dish by LeBron James. Team USA with 20 assists tonight. Only 5 turnovers. A great look by LeBron in the cut.
And Carmelo Anthony has 18 as the U.S. is on the board in the 4th quarter.
Greece and Argentina, Jim, going back to junior ball, they've been together for 5, 6, and 7 years, so there's a great deal of continuity in their systems.
Carmelo Anthony on the miss. And it's LeBron James with a steal.
Important now, Team USA gets a chance to continue to work on half-court offense. Spain, for example, plays an awful lot of zone.
And Chris Paul is fouled.
Jim, because of the lack of practice time, you have to use these situations, if you're Mike Krzyzewski, as teachable moments, despite the score.
Although, after tonight, they'll play their next game on Wednesday.
Right. Another great look by LeBron.
And Carmelo Anthony will be getting back to the free throw line.
You know, when you look at what LeBron does during a regular NBA season in terms of the scoring he has to do for the Cavs, you see the way he's kind of put that ego on the back burner. Other than Chris Paul, he has really been Team USA's playmaker throughout this World Championship.
Anthony with 18 points in this game.
Talk about the balance. Anthony and Wade come in averaging a point a minute for Team USA.
And the U.S. with a 92-57 lead. Their biggest has been 40. And Australia getting 2 more from Barlow. The Australian team was up by 1 early. 15-14. That's Bosch connecting from the perimeter.
Well, it took a while for Chris to pull the trigger, but again, you get the idea there. The international style big man, Bosch, Elton Brand, ability to play both inside and out, and off that trapezoid lane as well.
The thing about USA basketball is they the recognition of where they were coming up short in the Olympics of 04 and in this tournament in 02 and correcting it.
Yes, no question, particularly obviously in terms of personnel. The only dilemma I see is the lack of practice time developed more cohesiveness on the defensive end.
Bosch again.
That's good to see. Chris Bosch, who had a breakout performance against Senegal. Again, this is about morale building right now for Team USA. Everybody gets a chance to stay ready. And you mentioned the 2 days off. They really, coming back to last Thursday, play only one game in 5 days.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is no time for off days. If I'm Coach K, I'm sure they're going to practice tomorrow and Tuesday, even though there'll be light practices. They need to be mental practices as they get ready for the remaining 3 games they hopefully will have left.
That was that look at the Australian bench, something becoming very familiar that we've seen during this run by USA basketball is, their lopsided victories, and teams stay with them maybe for a while early on, although Italy was very competitive throughout.
I'm going to point out a little thing, Jim, and I have not seen a USA team ever do this in international competition. Chris Paul just fouled a guy at midcourt to save the fast break.
They're learning, aren't they?
And they are picking up the style of play. I can't remember seeing that throughout this tournament, and certainly not in the past.
There you see Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard didn't get a start tonight, but he had been in that starting lineup. LeBron lets it go out of bounds. The U.S. in possession just past the 6-minute mark for the fourth quarter.
I think an interesting decision now Coach K will have to make as they get ready for Germany is who will guard Dirk Nowitzki, really the only NBA level player. Ooh.
That's Dwight Howard on a nice feed by Paul. Another assist for Paul.
Great look. Again, Howard gets behind the defense because the defenders help up on the ball, and that's a no-no.
With that assist, Chris Paul has tied the USA record for the most assists in a World Championship tournament. And the United States is going to play a lot more games, it would appear. So he's got plenty of chances to break that record.
I saw this young man dominate North Carolina 2 years ago, and I remember as we were getting ready for the NBA draft, Greg Anthony and I begging teams to take this guy before even New Orleans got a shot. This young man is a young Isaiah Thomas in terms of his ability to change a game.
Ball knocked out of bounds here with Fran Fraschilla. I'm Jim Durham. The United States playing in Saitama now in the elimination round, and they will play the rest of the tournament here in Saitama, with Germany coming up next for the U.S. on Wednesday in the quarterfinals. Remember, if you're joining our broadcast late, the way the brackets are set up, the U.S. will have to play, if they continue on to the gold medal game, either Spain or Argentina, but not both, because they're in the other bracket. They would meet in the semifinals, those two teams.
I thought Darko Milicic had an excellent quote after today's game with Spain. He said, Argentina and the USA are great, but Spain is the best team I've ever played against. Now that says something. That means that he either knows something we don't, or he's not real smart. But knowing Darko and the fact that he's played so well, I think it says something about the respect that he has for that Spanish team led by Paul Gasol.
Chris Bosch with his second solid game that he's played for the United States. The final game against Senegal in the preliminary round, he scored 20. Bogut, and a foul. Foul on Miller.
Well, this is garbage time right now, and the defensive intensity of Team USA has naturally let down.
Well, they were up 88-49 going to the fourth, so you can understand why that would be. And they didn't start out very well in this fourth quarter, but they're still comfortably in front and well on their way to a win. And that's the thing.
Keep winning.
And, you talked about it all through the preliminary round that, once they got past that, it's a one-and-done deal. You got to keep winning now. And that was one of the first quotes that I read from Mike Krzyzewski when he brought the team together. He said, guys, it's not like an NBA playoff series. This is like your college tournament. If you can remember back to your days in college, this is how it is. For those guys that attended college.
Jimmy V used to say, survive and advance. And that's what this tournament is now for Team USA.
Bogut again. Bruton. Those long shots were dropping early on today.
Coach K has 68 wins in the NCAA tournament and 3 titles. And I bet this is as much pressure as he's felt in any of those opportunities to compete.
Grant Miller with a chance at a three-point play. McKinnon called for the foul.
Dribble penetration against the defense usually brings something positive. Dwayne Wade again in the lane, draws 4 defenders, and Miller gets behind that defense. You mentioned Germany and Dirk Nowitzki. Jim, if you follow college basketball, people will remember Ademola Okoroji from North Carolina. Patrick Femmerling, who played at Washington, got them to the Sweet 16 in the late 90s, I think 96, actually 97. Joe Airbear from West Virginia just graduated.
And Australia retains possession. It's Bogut attacking the rim, but being called for an offensive foul. Well, Fran, you've made the selection of your top 4 teams. You touched on it earlier. And you like them in this order?
Well, I like
These
Spain.
Are just your top 4
I like Spain to beat Argentina. And I'll tell you now.
Really?
Yep. And if Team USA has to, I think they have an easier time with Spain than they will with Argentina. Argentina will be like going to the dentist.
Argentina, of course, the defending Olympic gold medal champion.
You look at Andrew Bogut out there. They've got 7 Andrew Bogut level players that have been together since 1999.
And the U.S. coming up with another steal.
Manu Ginobili with 28 today.
Jamison.
The left corner has been good for everybody on Team USA.
Another turnover by Australia.
You look at Argentina, Jim. Andres Nocioni, Ginobili, Pepe Sanchez, who's the ideal international point guard. John Chaney's former point guard at Temple.
I don't know how that happened. A 40-point game, the U.S. having equaled its largest lead. And Bogut is going to have his points. When this one is over, he's, let's see, I've got him with 20 right now. Joe Johnson.
This really is garbage time now as Australia just pushes the break. Hey, I'll tell you, watch out for Angola over France later on this morning.
I'm with you. We'll be back after these messages. Let's attack.
Hey, you see Dirk Bowerman, the coach of Germany, the guy who got a start actually in the United States at Fresno State under Ron Adams, who ironically now coaches for Scott Skiles and the Chicago Bulls. Very, very good, well-known international coach.
Chris Paul, the only U.S. player who has not scored, but he has tied a United States assist record for this tournament. Joe Johnson.
Well, when you manage the big three, but when you mention this team and Chris Paul, it gets back to what I mentioned earlier. Jerry Colangelo wanted a pure point guard for this group. And I think, again, when you talk about building a team for international play, so far that looks to be a very, very wise decision.
You know, this guy's not bad either.
Oh, he has had a really good tournament.
And Kirk Heinrich was one of the late additions to USA basketball.
Chauncey Billups worked out with the team and then for personal reasons took the rest of the summer off, but he certainly wants to continue to be a part of this program. There's some great point guards to choose from.
Yeah, the depth is remarkable. There's Chris Paul getting his first 2 points. So they've all scored, and they have bettered their average.
There's a great example of what we talked about. Chris Paul had the easy 2, and he just piles those assists on top of that record he now owns for the United States in World Championship play. Easy 2 by Joe Johnson.
Joe Johnson has been terrific offensively tonight. And with 38 seconds left, we get a stoppage in play, a foul on Antoine Jamison.
Jim, I don't think there's any question this is the best they've played. You talked about it early, but they, for the most part, minus the fact that we've been in garbage time for about 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, this was their first test as far as elimination goes, and they responded to the challenge. You know, even as well as these other teams have played in the tournament, Argentina and Spain, I don't know. I don't know if they're playing any better than the United States is right now.
Well, you're right. I think where Argentina, in my mind, has the advantage, in terms of an advantage, is that they know each other so well. This team is very talented. They're very unselfish. Everything's gone right. Do they have enough time to build cohesiveness to beat a team like Argentina? That's going to be the $64,000 question.
So it's Argentina getting the fast break layup to go in the final seconds. The U.S. doesn't have to shoot the ball. They do have to clear mid-court, cross into the front court, and it's going to be another lopsided final for the U.S. as they win this one 113-73 over Australia and head to the quarterfinals where they run up against Dirk Nowitzki and Germany.